Hello fellow Misfortunates, this is how you should play Caitlyn in Season 12. The Lethal Tempo rework shook up the ADC meta quite a bit, and Caitlyn just loves this new keystone. Due to your massive attack range of 650, Caitlyn can stack this rune very reliably at all stages of the game. In general, Caitlyn prefers buying attack damage items rather than attack speed, so getting free attack speed from your keystone is already good value. However, once you unlock 6 stacks, your range increases to 750, and when you combine that with your traps and your net, your opponents will have no chance to catch you. I've already talked about how insane Jinx is with Lethal Tempo, and Caitlyn really comes with much of the same benefits. But there is one big difference. While Jinx with Lethal Tempo is completely broken in the mid and late game, she is also quite vulnerable in lane. Caitlyn, on the other hand, sacrifices some of that scaling power for a more reliable lane phase. Due to that, Caitlyn is much easier to play and way more reliable, especially if you are new to the ADC position. Or if you're just tired of being helpless when the enemy jungler and mid laner are camping your lane, but whatever. With Caitlyn, you are pretty much guaranteed to get through the laning phase just fine, sometimes even hard winning, which guarantees you will get your core items and have meaningful impact on the game. Actually, there is a very powerful core item build for Caitlyn with Lethal Tempo, and I will share it with you in just a second, but first let's answer the most important question. Is Lethal Tempo Caitlyn actually overpowered, and should we expect a nerf? Well, if we have a look at the numbers and take them at face value, it seems like Caitlyn is a little bit on the strong side, but nothing too concerning. Her play rate is skyrocketing right now, which means her win rate must go down, since many new players are picking her up and need to learn the champion first. By the way, shoutouts to you if you are watching this video right now instead of hard first timing Caitlyn in solo queue. Your teammates will be forever grateful. However, these numbers are somewhat painting a false picture of reality. The reason is, after looking at various stat websites, I know for a fact that more than 70% of all Caitlyn players are buying the wrong items. Once this new core build begins to catch on, we will see a massive spike in terms of win rate. Either way, while Riot probably won't nerf Caitlyn directly, they might nerf the rune Lethal Tempo, because some champions like Vayne, Jinx or Master Yi are abusing it way too hard right now. Anyway, the new Caitlyn build is played with the rune page of Lethal Tempo, Presence of Mind, Legend Bloodline and Cutdown, with magical footwear and biscuit delivery secondary. Your shards are attack speed, adaptive force and either armor or magic resist, depending on whether you are playing against an ADC or a mage in the bot lane. We've already talked about Lethal Tempo and it is rather straightforward. Keep attacking from max range, ramping up your DPS and ultimately gain the oppressive 100 bonus range. Presence of Mind and Biscuit Delivery are very nice because you will have enough mana for all your spells at every stage of the game. Especially being able to wave clear indefinitely during the lane phase with Biscuit mana is good quality of life. And magical footwear on AD carries is straight up overpowered because saving 300 gold on boots gives you even faster access to your core items. This is just my preference with Caitlyn though, and other secondary runes like Taste of Blood and Ravenous Hunter or Absolute Focus with Gathering Storm are perfectly viable as well. Legend Bloodline is a must-have because lifesteal is not part of your item build, and Cutdown is always optimal on Caitlyn in every matchup. Caitlyn's base health is just so low that Cutdown will outperform Coup de Grace every time, even when the enemy team has 0 tanks. As far as the item build is concerned, the 2 correct core items that tip Caitlyn over the edge are Kraken Slayer and Phantom Dancer. Yes, I am 100% serious about this, and I will prove it to you right now both in theory and in practice. So if you have a look at this build on paper, you will already start to see the super strong synergies. There is this small catch-22 with Lethal Tempo that on the one hand it gives you a lot of attack speed, but that you on the other hand already need to have good attack speed to begin with, or else you won't be able to get your stacks reliably. Kraken Slayer and Phantom Dancer solve this problem perfectly because both of these items give you plenty of attack speed while at the same time rewarding you for having high attack speed. With these items you will get to 6 stacks in no time, and you can then shoot down anyone from 750 range with Kraken Slayer's true damage. Additionally, high attack speed on Caitlyn also means you will get more headshots from your passive, because your passive is for all intents and purposes here an on-hit effect. The icing on the cake is that Phantom Dancer also comes with a lot of in-combat movement speed, making it virtually impossible for your enemies to simply walk away from you. The synergies between Lethal Tempo, Kraken Slayer and Phantom Dancer are so crazy that pretty much any AD carry could abuse them, but Caitlyn just does it exceptionally well. Forget Gale Force, forget Collector, Kraken Slayer plus Phantom Dancer it is. Your third item should be Infinity Edge because Caitlyn's headshots scale heavily with crit and crit modifiers, and for optimal damage you also need to eventually press the subscribe button and purchase Lord Dominic's Regards. However, more often than not, damage will be no concern with this build, so opting for defensive ADC items rather early is certainly an option. In fact, the Master Tier Caitlyn player we will now analyze went for more of Momosha's fourth item, prioritizing magic resist and burst protection over damage, so there would be no chance Caitlyn gets one-shot by the opposing solo laners. In her own lane, however, Caitlyn doesn't need to worry at all. She easily outranges the enemy Jhin, and as long as she doesn't walk into too many Zilean bombs, the early game will be a piece of cake for her. While most AD carries really suffer when they are playing with a roaming support like Bard, Caitlyn can simply farm from max range whenever Bard is out of lane. Adapting to the 2v2 situation is also super easy, because Caitlyn has extremely strong follow-up with her traps and her Q when Bard connects his stun on the opponent. Caitlyn is just the perfect champion for the lane phase, and even strong early game bullies like Jhin will have a hard time trying to punish you. Additionally, strong junglers who want to camp your lane are also perfectly manageable, but see for yourself. Look at how Caitlyn uses her net and plays with her massive range to ultimately turn around this dangerous gank. Did you see the trap cutting off Zilean when he tried to exit the tunnel? If only Bard would have been mindful enough to dodge the final Jhin W, it could have been so perfect. Also shoutouts to Lethal Tempo here. Look how helpless Jhin and Graves are against a 750 range Caitlyn. It is just absurd. Anyway, if you make good use of Caitlyn's tools, you should be able to easily keep lane priority. You can force the enemy out of lane, make them miss their minions, and at the same time collect some gold yourself in form of tower platings. Unless you are super greedy, the enemy jungler should also never be able to kill you with a gank. You should expect to get ganked quite often, because the enemy bot lane will probably cry for help in team chat. However, this is by no means bad for you. In fact, you should be happy to get ganked by the jungler, because you can just stand at max range and stay safe with your net. This means you can simply walk away from any dangerous situation, while the enemy jungler is merely wasting their own time. The enemy gets nothing out of this if you play it correctly, and by drawing pressure to your bot lane, you are indirectly taking pressure away from your solo laners. It's simple. When the opposing jungler is camping your lane, they of course cannot simultaneously be anywhere else on the map, which is crucial information for your allies. However, when you are not getting camped and your support lands their CC, this is your opportunity to go hyper aggressive. Caitlyn's traps are just the nastiest follow-up for any form of crowd control. There is no escape from this combo. Anyway, when the enemy bot lane turret eventually falls, the lane phase will be over and you enter the mid game. In this phase, Caitlyn is actually relatively weak because there are no lane opponents that you can just bully, and you also don't have your crazy late game items yet. However, Lethal Tempo deals with this problem perfectly, letting you go nuts in mid game skirmishes with just your core build. Macro-wise, you should naturally try to get pressure in the mid lane when there is a dragon on the line, so your team can simply take it with mid lane priority. As always in the mid game, you should apply the concept of pushing the lane past the river and then roaming to another place to keep up your farm and your team's momentum. Of course, roaming also includes the option to first go base and spend your gold. As long as you disappear from your enemy's minimap, you are already applying pressure simply by withholding information from them. In any case, once you do actually get into a fight, kiting correctly and placing your traps efficiently is very important. But this person's execution is on another level, just look at this. dodging 2 Jhin bullets with mobility spells while at the same time using these spells to duel Vladimir. Just hyper efficient and very pleasing to look at. At this point, top lane is the only lane in which the opposing tier 1 tower is still standing. This one is obviously way easier to take than any of the tier 2 towers, and you all probably know the mantra of take the free stuff, win the game. So naturally, top lane is the place to go for Caitlyn here because the tower is relatively free and there is no dragon to contest right now. Unfortunately, she tunnel visions onto Gwen and fails to notice that Jhin and Zilean are following suit. She takes Jhin down with her, but still feeds him quite the shutdown, and also can no longer destroy the enemy top lane turret before the next dragon spawns. However, while fighting over vision control near the dragon pit, this happens. Please pay close attention to Caitlyn's trap usage here. It is almost stupid how hard you can counter stasis effects with Caitlyn. Especially when you are facing a champion like Zilean, who pretty much revolves around the stasis effect from his ultimate, you just hard counter them with Caitlyn's traps. This also holds true for any opponent who relies on Zhonya's Hourglass, by the way. Caitlyn is so good against them. Again, take the free stuff, win the game, and after getting your enemies off the map, Dragon is completely free. Red team is in a very tough spot right now, as blue team is able to consistently push the wave past River in the mid lane due to their mid lane tower advantage. The only saving grace for the enemy really is that Caitlyn failed to pressure top lane tower earlier. If it was taken down too, blue team could easily set up all the vision they need in the Baron area. Regardless, red team needs to make something happen to even the score in terms of mid lane towers, or this will not go well for them much longer. Because while Baron might not yet be free for blue team, dragons still very much are. And since red team even keeps losing pressure in this part of the map, blue team can take the next one for free as well. This dragon soul is solely... get it? Solely? solely the result of map pressure difference. Red team couldn't even try to fight over it because they failed to make proactive plays during the mid game. And when red team finally does make a move on blue team's mid tower, it is unfortunately too little, too late. While this was beautifully played by Caitlyn, you can also clearly see why she has to opt for some magic resist here. Even when kiting at max range, Vladimir's target access is way too scary. Oh, and Bard is definitely the secret MVP in this one with his life-saving ultimate. Now after this team fight, blue team gets all the enemy mid lane turrets and Baron on top of that. This is extremely hard to recover from, and the enemy's best shot here is to play defensively and provoke blue team into a careless tower dive in their base. When you're behind, you have to stay safe and give your opponents opportunities to make mistakes. Human error exists, and even in high elo, such mistakes do happen. Trying to defend a tier 2 tower though is game-losingly greedy. These are simply located too far away from your base, and blue team can sneak behind them to cut you off way too effortlessly. Vladimir again tries his signature move of eating Caitlyn alive, but he cannot kill her through Hexdrinker and just dies. Sometimes defense is the best offense. Anyway, this mistake of trying to defend the tier 2 tower was indeed game losing, and Caitlyn can now take down the rest of the enemy's base. I assume that at least some of you people are here because you enjoyed the show Arcane, so you might also be interested in the champion Jinx. If you are, you can get all the knowledge you need in order to win with Powder by clicking the link on your screen right there.